Hi there, I'm Luna, and this is my podcast, Healing the Patriarchy with Love. I wanted to come on today and answer the question, what is the patriarchy? And I wanted to do this because I have quite a unique perspective on it. And it's a little bit different to the mainstream or the general consensus around what patriarchy is. When we think of patriarchy, what we tend to do is think of it as things that we don't like in the world. So we maybe think of it as systems, perhaps we think of it as the global elite, things like that. And what I wanted to do was make it a more empowering belief. And in order to do that, we always have to come back to ourselves. So we come away from thinking of it as things that are separate to us, outside of us, or nothing to do with us, or that it's only certain things. Because my belief is it's in everything. It's in the entire world that we created together. And that because we created it together, consciously or unconsciously, we all are patriarchal in our own hidden ways. And although we can see a lot of things that are patriarchal now because patriarchy is dying, so of course it's been brought to light, which means it's available to us to see because the light is on and we can see. But there's still parts of it that we can't see yet. And I think it's really helpful to come back to ourselves and see which bits of us are the bits of us that helped to unconsciously create it. Because once we know that, then we can start to make better choices. So what I found helped me with this was to go back to Eastern medicine. So yin and yang, the yin being the feminine and yang being the masculine, and those principles that they say that those have. So for example, yin is nurturing, caring, receptive, fluid, and yang being the masculine is focused, goal-oriented, intelligent, reason, logic, that kind of thing. So those are like the different principles that we have in the world. And they're in everything. And if we think about the patriarchy, what we can clearly see is that the yang, the masculine principles, have been overvalued and overused. And the feminine principles, the yin, have been undervalued and underused. And if we then bring that back to ourselves, we can think, okay, so we all know that regardless of what gender we are, we have yin and yang within us. We have the masculine and the feminine within us, because we all have these different principles and we use these different principles in our daily lives. So which bits of us are yin and which bits of us are yang? And I find that the mind is yang. And some people have a slightly more yang mind than others. For example, mine's quite yang because I'm autistic, and neurodivergence, just kind of like the neurology strips out a lot of the feminine things like the emotion and things like that. So it's quite a logical mind that I have. So mine's very yang, very masculine, but all minds are masculine because the principles of the mind, the qualities and the essence of the mind are the logic, the reason, all the yang principles really belong to the mind. And then the heart is feminine because it's yin. It's got all of those feminine essences and qualities to it, you know, the caring, the nurturing, the reception, all those things that I just mentioned before, and lots more that are feminine, the heart has. And so if we think about it like that, you can realize that the internal issue that has created the external symptoms of patriarchy is that we have over-relied on and overvalued our mind. And that doesn't mean that the mind isn't valuable. It's very valuable. But we've overvalued it and over-relied on it. And we've undervalued and under-relied on the feminine heart. And when this happens, as we can see a lot in the world, there's a lot of mental illness because our minds are being asked to do a job that they're not really created to do. They're not created to be over-relied on and overvalued. They're not meant to be in charge. They're not meant to be the lead and the guide. The heart is meant to be the lead and the guide. But because our hearts have been cut off by the over-reliance and overvaluing of the mind and the undervaluing and under-reliance of the heart, we are finding that we are creating purely from the masculine principles. And again, this can be very unconscious in us, and in some cases it's conscious and deliberate, but in many cases it's unconscious and not realized. And when we're constantly creating from this very logical point of view, and we are overvaluing everything in the world that has the yang principles, the masculine principles, and we are undervaluing everything that has the feminine principles, things get out of balance. And when things get out of balance, as we know, just we're all part of nature, the whole planet is nature itself. Nature has a way of trying to correct itself, and usually that's through, sickness, disease, and the need sometimes for everything to die and go back to the earth and come back again. So what we can see is this current collapse of civilizations, which is really just nature saying, actually, this has just got completely out of balance and we need to heal that and find a new way of it working for us. I'm sorry if you just heard, I have got noise reduction on, but one of my cats has just let themselves into the room, so I'm sorry if you can hear that. I don't know if it will be taken out or not, I hope so. Yes, so basically this world that we've created where we undervalue the feminine, and that's not necessarily saying that we undervalue women, although it does often play out that way in front of us, and that we have overvalued the masculine. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean that we overvalue men, although it sometimes can appear that way. Once we get back to coming into our hearts and getting out of our heads, I think it's quite often said, isn't it, that people are stuck in their heads, or you sometimes hear people saying, oh, everybody's walking around like a zombie, they've been brainwashed. It's because people have become over-reliant on their minds and overvaluing their minds, and they've been undervaluing and under-relying on their hearts. So in other words, they've been overvaluing and over-relying on the masculine and undervaluing and under-relying on the feminine. So that is my take on what the patriarchy is. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to know what you think the patriarchy is. Please do share. I'm very interested in different points of view, and I love to get people talking about this. And I know everybody has a lot of wisdom to share on this, and we're all part of it, and it's affecting all of us. So I really want to encourage people to open up and share what their beliefs are around it. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, you should be able to, if you've got an account on there, you should be able to comment underneath my podcast. So please let me know. And I plan to come on and do a show where I read people's comments out. So if you want yours to be read out on one of my shows, please do comment. Likewise, you can go to my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Luna Louise Anna. And my podcasts and threads and things like that, where I'll be asking people similar questions, will be on there. And if you want your point of view to be read out, then please write a comment on there with what you would like me to say. And the ones that I feel guided by my heart to read out, I will read out on one of my following podcasts. Thank you so much for joining me and listening. I'm looking forward to taking this journey together with you, and I can't wait for us to get started and get stuck in. Lots and lots of love to all of you. Bye, darlings.